Accomplices. I'm Lynda Norman. I'm a watercolor artist in the beautiful province of British Columbia. Today, we'll spend a little bit of time working on the first of a three-part series of little miniatures. Recently, I've been thinking about how I can create smaller pieces of art using some of the things I have in my studio. As I was just mentioning to Lorenz earlier, I'm accumulating quite a lot of paintings, and I just thought maybe I'd be more focused on what I can take to markets. I've got one coming up in April that I'll be taking part in. And I came across this frame with some old photos that I had taken and put in, and I thought, you know, I'm going to repurpose this. I'm going to take the photos out, and I'm going to create three little paintings to fit in these spots. So I just happen to have an offcut from a larger piece of paper, and by the feel of this, I'm thinking that this is a Bauhaus Masters cold press rough. It's lovely, nice weighted piece of material. The pieces that I need to fit in those little frames, the openings of that mat are 3.5 by 5.5. So I've just made a little mark here, and I'm just going to tear those probably at about, they're actually just over almost 6 this way, so I'm going to tear them at about, just under 4 inches. Okay, so I'm going to mark it at 3 7/8 and 3 7/8 because the paper isn't quite 12 inches long. Otherwise, I would have done 4 inches by 4 inches. So let's do 3 7/8 right there. And then we'll just move this along and do that one more time. If the end one is a little bit larger, that's okay. We can just tuck whatever's left behind the mat, right? So 3 7/8 and 3 7/8. All right. And I could cut it, but I think today I'm just going to line up my trusty metal ruler and create a bit of a line. Actually, I'm just going to do that for both pieces rather than try to tear it with the ruler on the surface. Just make that initial bend. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be precise as long as we know we've got at least the 3.5 inches width or depth, depending on which way I decide to put the frame. So I think we're good there. Usually I have a bone folder, and I do remember that name. Last time I couldn't remember what it was called. But of course I don't have it here right now. So I'm just going to use this side of one of my brushes, and I'm just going to help to crease that a tiny bit more, just so that when I tear it, it's going to be a little easier to stay truer to the measurement. Okay, so I'm going to have 3 pieces, and in this video we'll do number 1. And I'm kind of thinking, I want this to be quick and easy. I don't want these projects to, become a major endeavor. So I'm going to keep it as quick and simple as I can. And for me, that means birch trees. And I think that's what I think I'm going to do. It's interesting. The little magnets on my palette stuck to my ruler a little bit there. I'm loving, by the way, my little palettes, my little Art Accomplice palettes that I designed. And John McDonald here in my town creates them on his 3D printer for me. And I do have them available on my website if you ever want to try them out. They're handy dandy for these nice big brushes. All right, I'm going to just clip that on there for now, I think. No, I'm not going to, because they're small enough. I don't think it's going to buckle. And maybe I'll just move this right out of the way. There we go. All right, I'm going to wet my palette. In my palette, I have Mayan Dark Blue, Ultramarine Blue, Deep Undersea Green rather, quinacridone gold. This is I believe it's a quinacridone sienna. This is a buff titanium. It's a more opaque color. And rose of ultramarine. No, quinacridone rose in this one. The reason I didn't put the rose of ultramarine, that's in a separate palette, is because to get rose of ultramarine, that beautiful purpley color, I can mix my quinacridone rose and my ultramarine blue. And over on this side, I've got a little bit of a neutral tint, and I've got a little bit of yellow ochre. I just thought I'd put that in there in case I wanted to touch into that, okay? So I wet my palette. I'm going to quickly grab into my, no, there's my tape. I'm going to make this a little challenge. See if we can make a little painting in under 20 minutes. How about that? So with my trees, I think I'm going to do, I will do them so that they're portrait style rather than landscape, because I want the trees to be nice and long. And I will do 3 today. For the first one, rather, I will do 1 main tree, perhaps on the left side. For the second video to follow, I will do a couple of trees gathered more towards the center, not dead center. And then for the third one, I will do a main tree on the left-hand side, just to try to create a bit of interest when I get the 3 of them going on the page, or on the behind the matting. All right, so I want my trees to go right off the bottom of the page. For this one, I want the tree to be kind of front and center. And you know what, I did that before I realized I had this nice thick piece here. I want this tree to be thick and lovely on the bottom. And as always, I like to put the ripped side on both sides of the tree, so I don't have a real hard straight edge. And then if I put this one about here, and we'll bring it off to that side. I love this part of the process. With the tape, you can piece it together. It's almost like molding and shaping and playing with plasticine or you know, other ways of molding things. And it's just a fun way to do things. I'm using this solo tape from Michael Solovyev's Watercolor Online Studio. I've used this for a couple of years now. It's absolutely wonderful. The website says you can leave it on your work for up to 12 days. Honestly, I have left it much longer than that, and it's come off really nicely. Sometimes when you're using painter's tape and other products, they don't come off as easily, and you end up with a bit of an issue, especially if it's sticking that hard and it's taking the surface off your paper. If you're not, especially for smaller project as well, sometimes you're not using 100% cotton paper. If you're using cellulose paper, definitely you want to be careful that you get your tape off as quickly as you can once the painting has dried. All right, so we're just about ready to paint with this little guy. I like that this has got kind of a jut out here. I'm going to, and these are just kind of placeholders. We can go in and we can fill in as we need to a little bit later with our paints. And I can hear my puppy. She's just arrived home. She's woofing outside the door there. We have a little mini Aussie. Her name is Gracie, and she is a sweetheart. She's decided that because I no longer give her a treat every time she comes in the house when called, that was a training thing, but since I no longer will do that because she's getting just too many treats, she will, when she realizes that I'm not going to hand her the treat from her dish on the counter, she will go to her own dish. She's a grazer, so there's always food there. She'll go to her own dish, pick up one kibble, take it to her bed, and then savor that. So she treats herself now for coming in and being a good girl. So we love that. She's a joy for sure. All right, that's probably the biggest time used on these kind of paintings. My paints have been wetted, they're juicy, they're ready to go. And I dipped into that before I actually even thought about it. What I think I want to do is, I said I had some yellow ochre, and I just want to try a bit of that. I'm just going to wet that. I should have sprayed it, but I don't. I'm just going to wet it with my brush. And because the tape is holding the place for those trees, I don't have to worry about where I'm putting the water. It's all going to be fine. And if some of it seeps under, because I don't burnish the tape down, if some of the color that I'm putting on seeps under there, that's just fine too. It sort of adds to the texture on the sides of the trees. So I think I want to do a typical watercolor sky often includes yellow ochre, so that it gives you that, I want to say dirty. What do I want to, it's a shadowed kind of, almost like a glow, but the sun's not really there. And so that gives you that. And then if I go in with some ultramarine blue, I'm just going to mix that on the side of the palette here. And then a tiny bit of Mayan dark blue in there just to darken it a bit. Just to give that sky some intensity. Because these paintings are small, I do want to have a little bit of intensity happening there. So, and because it's wet on wet, you can see where the blue, both the Mayan dark blue and the ultramarine are nice and granulating. So they're going to kind of move their way around the page a little bit and blend quite nicely together. And I think just for fun, I'm going to add a bit more of the Gracie's playing with her ball upstairs. I hope you can hear that. Oh my gosh. She's 2 years old, so she still has a lot of puppy energy. We have a lot of fun. The grandsons, 2 of our grandsons live here in town near us, and so they come and spend a bit of time with us often, and it's just so much fun to watch how the kids and the pup will play together. So I'm just going to get some background in here. My trusty Levinson 1.5 inch goat synthetic blend brush. Get some darkness in the background with the Mayan dark blue. This will fade out. Watercolors do tend to dry lighter. And so these, when this Mayan dark blue fades, it will give that sense of distance because it will be lighter when it does dry. This again is fading, or not fading, but it's sort of granulating down into the wetness on the bottom of this page here. I just love that. I'm just going to dip into my undersea green and add a little bit of green to the foreground of that foresty area. Maybe highlight some tops of some of these trees, make them stand out a little bit. I'm just loving how this is happening here, and I just want to get, I think, a little more water. And rather than put a lake or anything down there, I'm just going to let that paint work its own way down. I might just add a tiny bit more here, and we'll give it a tip just to encourage that downward a little bit. Okay. Now, usually I will use a quinacridone gold just to brighten things up in the forested area. I think I will do that. I'm going to try that just in a couple of spots just to give the sense of a little bit of lightness, and it does push away the other colors. So we sort of get that goldy glow, maybe a bit of reflection coming in from what we've put in the sky. And if you put this color in sort of in rounded shapes, like bushes and shrubbery, it does give you a nice undergrowth kind of feeling for your forest. So I'm just loving how this is working its way down. And I think I will not add much more to this one while everything is still dampish. I'm going to take a paper towel and just give it a gentle mist, just so that when I scrunch it, it's not hard edged. It's got a bit of softness to it. And I'm going to make a little pillow, and then I'm going to put my finger on the on the tape just to hold things down, and I'm just tapping in with a few cloud shapes. And I can take a tiny bit of this out. I've got such a lot of wetness in there. Now normally you would wait until everything is completely dry, but I think we're dry enough here. Oops, I don't want to take too much of that out. Dry enough here that I can probably remove much of that tape. And I want to, I just want to hold the page down so that it's not going to be lifted up. So what I'm doing here is I'm pulling the tape as low to the surface as possible and as slow. Now normally I would pull, if it was a larger area, pull away from the edge of the design just in case things did tend to go sideways a bit. But oops. But if you keep it low and slow and you're working on good paper, you should be able to do this quite nicely. And it's certainly worth your while to take your time to do this, because there's nothing worse than ripping the top layer off your paper, right? It's like when you're trying to pull the cellophane wrappers off of things and they just won't go away. That's funny. I also will often use a little X-Acto knife, and that just helps to very gently pick up that edge. I don't want to poke a hole in the paper, that's for sure. And it's coming off in pieces because I put it on in pieces, right? Oh my gosh. I've never had this tape do this before to me. Craziness. All right. That sound, if you can hear that, sounds like a herd of heffalumps. That's just Gracie. She does not live up to her name. She's not very graceful. So I do really love how the blue, the Mayan blue, just sort of worked its way through that moisture on the bottom of the page. Now this is going to be sitting behind that mat, so some of that will be cut off. So I'm just really thrilled that ended up that way. I might, if it's dry enough, just take a little try at pulling away just maybe a tiny edge. There we go. You don't need to take much away. Sometimes it's just creating those little indications as to where the shore edge or the bank or the edge of a meadow or whatever this bottom part happens to be. I always try to keep this, it's hard to tell when I'm doing it at an angle, but I always try to keep these little lines very straight on the horizon. Oh, and now I can hear my grandson's voice. We have a busy house. But I don't need to do much there either for that. Now it's a little damp. I'm going to just clean that surface here a little bit. A lot of people like to have their smooth surface wet and the back of their paper wet, which I certainly have done. and it helps to create a suction and hold your paper down. There's not enough water in it, and I won't wet the back of it. It's not something I feel I need to do. So now I think the last little bit I'm going to do here is to find a bright. These are really acrylic brushes. They're called Brights, B-R-I-G-H-T. They have a nice firm bristle. They don't hold a lot of water. They're not meant to. They're meant for acrylics to just pick up the paint. But I love them for mark making, pulling out edges. That's what I used for the edge with this little tiny one. I'm going to a larger one now. And I'm going to use this to create the bark edges on my tree. So I've got some color that I mixed up here. It's not very thick. It's not very dark. So it's going to be fairly translucent. And I'm just going to use, it's the ultramarine blue mixed with the Mayan blue. And I'm just pulling that in here and there. And you can see here where the colors from the background have sort of seeped under the edge. And they just, I think that's just a really nice way to enhance this bark. Now, when I get to the bottom, I need to decide where my trees are going to go. And I think we're going to do it this way. It's cold here today, minus 13 Celsius, which apparently turns to 8.6 Fahrenheit, if that's how you gauge your temperature. I think it's warmed up now. We've got some nice bright sun happening. So just here and there, just a little bit of this blue on the edge. I like using the same color blue on my trees as part of their composition as I have used in the back, maybe a little different intensity. And you could get that intensity change by just adding more water or more pigment. So we'll just, now where this branches sort of come out this way, I'm going to just make it a little darker, just so that it gives a sense of there's a change in an angle and maybe a bit of a shadow. And a couple more on this big guy up here, and maybe a little bit here. I see there's a line there, somehow that, and there, paint splattered or whatever. I can always turn those into little branches later on. These, now I'm going to take the whole page, turn it over, and approach the next side. Now I want to keep these marks on this side of the page a little bit random from the other side. You don't really necessarily want to have them both sides coming together that much, just because it looks like it's very patterned. So I try to offset them a tiny bit. When I'm doing this stroke, and this is also something that I do often with these little plastic tabs, and you can certainly do that. You can pick up a bit of paint and work that way. This is a fun way to do it because you also get a whole different texture. So you can do a little bit of both. A little bit of this with the plastic and a little bit of the working with the brush. I like to make things at the bottom of my trees a little bit darker, just because they makes them a little bolder, makes them look like they're a little larger and a little closer to you, perhaps. And I'm going to set that aside and go back to my brush and finish off the rest of these. And at this point, it's up to you to decide if you want to include another color. Introduce another color to your trees. Also, I like to keep just the slightest curve to my brush. It sort of gives that sense that the tree is rounded. Yeah, we've got a big bare spot here. We'll do that. So I'm going to clean my brush. I think I'm going to go to the yellow ochre and just pick up a tiny bit of that. And I think if I go in just here and there, in between and over the top of the blue, blending that in a little bit. I'm just laying the color on the surface. I'm not trying to create a design at this point in time. think we've just got to lay that color in there, and then I will go in with a wet brush, a very damp brush rather, not really wet, and sort of blend those colors together a little bit. I kind of like that there's some darker spots, a little heavier pigment perhaps, and it just adds, I think, to the interest into the organic nature of the tree. I try to add just a tiny bit more at the bottom. I think my brush is just a bit dry. Often I will use the overspray if I see a dot, a drop of water, which I've just seen there, and just that's all I need to add to my brush to give it enough to move the pigment around. So I'm really liking this combination of the yellow ochre and the Mayan dark blue mixed with the ultramarine, and just put a tiny bit more in this side here, and then again we'll flip it. You know what, I'm going to just add the slightest mist to that yellow ochre, and let's see if we can get a little darker in the inside here, where the trees are sort of against each other, facing each other. You might get a little more intense color there because of the shadows. So you can always add just a little bit more in this side of the tree and at the bottom of, as I said. Nice to have a little bit of that color. Your trees are your trees. You could add any color you want. I do try to keep it in line with what else I've got on the page, but it doesn't take much. If I was to add a quinacridone rose perhaps to the tree, all I would need to do is just add a little quinacridone rose perhaps to one of the pieces of the bushes or something in the background. Someone told me once that every painting should have a dot, at least a dot of red in it. Don't know how true that is, but that could be. Maybe I'll make that my signature. Every painting will have to have a dot of purple or something in it. That would be kind of fun. All right, and you can touch your brush every once in a while into the middle of these trunks and branches. I'm happy with that guy. The only thing now, like I say, I've got a line or two here. I can work on those with my Bright, with some clean water. And I want the brush to be clean, barely damp, like you wouldn't be able to really tell. Because my page is still a little bit damp, let's take a little bit of water from here and see if we can't feather that out. Get rid of some of that. The other option for that, of course, is to go in with your rigger or your 11s and 1.5 inch goat synthetic blend with that precision tip. And I like to use Mayan dark blue for my branches because it looks almost like black, dark gray. And you can create little branches coming off. And let's try one over here. And we'll try to blend that guy in. And maybe this fellow here will have one. And then we can soften where they join into the tree with a little bit of texture there. And sometimes where, where there's a little bow in the tree, you can put a little branch. And then, because that, our design is fairly light, we can just dab away a little bit of that pigment. And I think this guy needs to have a little bit more basis to where he's coming into that tree. There we go. All right. Little bits of tape everywhere. So I'm happy with this little fellow. I'm excited to see how he plays with the next two and what they look like in the frame. So stay tuned. We will do number 2 in the next video and number 3 in the following one, and eventually we'll come up with a little project. Thanks for being here today, accomplices. It's been a quick little video, a nice little birch tree, part 1 of 3. Hope you've enjoyed it, and if you like what you've seen, I invite you to subscribe to my channel or head on over to my website. You'll see some workshops and some things there that you can look into, or my membership area.